Okay, guys, so because I am a absolute fiend for fall, for the first actual coloring tutorial, we're going to use a pumpkin, just a random quick sketch. Yes, I know it's not the best in the world, but this is what you've got, so deal with it. Even for something as simple as a pumpkin, whenever I'm using Prismacolors, because I'm just a freak like this, I will literally use like 6 or 7 different colors. This goes back to the layering that we talked about a while ago, and how the biggest advantage with Prismacolors is that you can just lay down more and more and more color. And basically it just gives me my little junky fix for the day. I'm just using regular old drawing paper here, just regular like computer paper you get at Walmart for, I don't know, 1,000 sheets for $5, that kind of thing. But one of the things that the books always tell you is that different papers are going to give you different effects. You're going to be able to lay down different amounts of color. Some papers you're going to have a lot more of the white show through if it has what they call, say, a large tooth or a wide tooth. Other papers are going to be so slick you could only put down a couple layers at a time, and don't even try laminated poster board. It just won't work. I've tried Shrinky Dinks too. Apparently some people can get it to work, and I'm not one of those people. So for this particular pumpkin, I'm just going to use 6 random oranges that I happen to have in my set because Hobby Lobby was having a nice little sale one day. I've got mineral orange, which is kind of a darker, oh, where's my camera lens? Oh, my goodness. Oh, the other side, dummy. Mineral orange, which is one of the kind of browner oranges. It's a little bit of a duller color. We're just going to do a little swatch up here on a random piece of paper, just so you can kind of see. That's what we come out with. We have also got a cat trying to eat the pencils. Say hello, Sebastian. And we've also got a yellowed orange. I'm sure you probably can't see. This is why all these YouTube videos have out of focus things. But just take my word for it. It's a yellowed orange. We're going to put that right next to your mineral orange so you can kind of see what we're working with. As you can see, it's a much more vibrant, bright color, much prettier. We're also going to be working with a sunburst yellow. And a pale vermilion. A just plain orange is all it says on the wrapper there. And finally, because I know you're starting to think I'm just going to use every color in the box, there actually is a color called pumpkin orange. So we're going to go ahead and just lay that right there. As you can see, it's a nice, dark, kind of analogous to Folk Art's Autumn Leaves paint in the acrylic section. It's very red. One of the things that I usually will do if I'm working on something and I haven't worked with a particular color in a while or that kind of thing, I will actually kind of lay down these just swatches of color. Usually it's on a piece of spare paper, though, not actually on the project itself, but just for the purposes of learning. Doesn't really matter here. But I will just kind of lay them out like that so that I can just kind of get an idea of what I have to work with and what I may or may not want to actually use. Sometimes I'll change my mind whenever I see what it looks like on the paper. Okay, so basically one of the things that someone actually put on YouTube before, I don't remember who it was, but thank you, anonymous person, they were doing with Crayolas, and it translates very well to Prismacolors. If you're coloring something, the biggest idea that you can do is figure out what your highlight color is going to be, figure out what your main color is going to be, and figure out what your shadowy colors are going to be. Now, I've seen people who just use violet for every shadow. I don't necessarily like to do that. I've seen people who use black for every shadow. Black tends to come out well, black. And it tends to come out very bold. Even whenever you do it kind of lightly, it tends to, I don't know, it's not my personal preference. If you have luck with it, go right ahead. I say the great thing about art is you can kind of do what you want to do. But for the purposes of what I generally do, I'll go ahead and pick a color that's within the color range for my low light color. So as you can see here, obviously the pumpkin orange over here on this end is the darkest color that we have. So I'm going to go ahead and set that one aside for my shadows and shading. Sometimes I'll actually pick a second shadow and shading color if I want to have something that say has a little more of a dramatic feel to it. So I guess in that case I would also pick this little color right here that I forgot which one it was. Pale vermilion. Yes, that looks like it. We'll find out in a minute if it's not. All we'd have to do is just redo it anyway. It's just a pumpkin, for God's sakes, folks. It's not brain surgery. For my highlight color, I might say use this one right here. It's the lightest one we've got. That's going to be our sunburst yellow. And then these other three miscreants here can just be our midtones. So the first thing that I generally do, and you'll hear people say it both ways. You'll hear people say, just as in painting or watercolor, airbrush, or anything else, you'll hear people say, start with your darks and go to your lights, because if you know where your shadows are, then you're going to know where your light source is, and blah, blah, blah. And you'll hear other people who say, with just as much justification, start with your lights and go to your darks, because you can always add more dark, but you can't always lighten it up. Generally, I go from light to dark because I am prone to mess it up royally, and I can't always add more darks. But if you have your own way, go right with it. So what I'm going to do with my little hastily sketched pumpkin here, so I'm just going to go ahead and look at it, and I'm going to figure out where my light source is coming from. And for some reason, maybe just because I'm right-handed, I tend to have my light coming from the upper right corner. That's just where I like to put it. So I'm going to put a little arrow on this one for the purposes of illustration. Sometimes when I'm doing a project, if it's something that I know is going to take me several days, like my zombie woman that time, I'll go ahead